Okay, this is going to be the beginning of a playlist, which is about the philosophy of Henri Bergson. He wrote the works. Of where is it? He wrote this work, Mind, Energy, which was a later work of his, and not so popular as some other ones. He's not as well read now. He's not, as well known now as maybe Husserl, as well as, some more contemporary thinkers. Husserl was not contemporary, but he's not as well known, is what I'm trying to say. He wrote Mind, Energy, Two Sources of Morality and Religion, Creative Evolution, Matter and Memory, Time and Free Will, Essay on Laughter, Duration and Simultaneity, and a work called Mélange. He was a French philosopher who came before Husserl, and Jacques Derrida and Michel Foucault, in their writings, with looking at Edmund Husserl, basically what they were doing is that they were saying that Bergsonism, which is his main movement, which didn't really turn into a movement, is very, very similar to Husserlian phenomenology and can be subsumed under it. So, in Jacques Derrida's speech of phenomena, he said, well, Husserl is, his phenomenology is quite similar, Henri Bergson's Bergsonism is quite similar to Husserl's phenomenology, so my refutation here of Husserl's phenomenology could also therefore follow that I hereby refuted Bergson's Bergsonism. So, this is Matter and Memory. I do not own Mind, Energy, nor do I own Matter and Memory. This and this are library books. I do, however, own Creative Evolution and Time and Free Will. I would really like to get deep, deep, but not really, really deep into his works. I'm going to start with Mind Energy. Mind Energy was a later work, which was basically lectures that were compiled, but I want to start with that because I think it's a great primer. It's a great primer on Bergson's philosophy, and then also in this little playlist part of Bergson's philosophy, I would like to also talk about this book. This book is called Bergsonism by Gilles Deleuze. Deleuze is separate from Derrida and Foucault, in that Deleuze in this book kind of breaks the link between Husserl and Bergson that was put there by Derrida and Foucault and others beforehand. Derrida and Foucault kind of looked at them as very similar, and said, well, Derrida said, well, if I refute Husserl, then I therefore refute Bergson. The only other Bergson videos that I've seen, maybe I haven't looked so good, but the ones I know of are by a YouTuber which I haven't seen around very well, but he still has his channel up, called Emblem of Being. But this video is a little intro to Bergson's philosophy. It's a little primer, it's a little intro, and then following this I'll have a little discussion about some things, and then I'll jump into Mind, Energy. The same, I believe, I'm going to do with Merleau-Ponty's phenomenology of perception, and kind of do that. And the same I'm doing with Plato's Republic, and the same I've been doing with Martin Heidegger's Sein und Zeit, Being and Time. So, Bergson's philosophy is kind of hard to get your mind around. If you an article I read a long time ago, and I've often looked back about Bergson, is Bertrand Russell's. It's an article by him called "The Philosophy of Henri Bergson," and it was in the Monist. The Monist is a journal, and in there he just kind of talks about Bergson's philosophy. He kind of just talks about. He says he has some remarks about it, but he just mainly talks about his philosophy. Also, another good resource about Bergson's philosophy is the Stanford in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. So, basically, Bergson's philosophy is a philosophy of movement. It involves psychology and philosophy of mind, and basically it's a psychology and a philosophy of mind, and also a bit of metaphysics as well. That is not really in the traditional sense. First of all, it's dualistic. It's dualistic in that we have life and we have matter. Life can be thought of as mind, but it's better to think about it as life to understand it in the Bergson's terms. Life is a force. It is the main thing that is written about in his book, Creative Evolution, because the life creatively evolves, and it does things to break the matter. The matter is similar somewhat to Asian philosophy, to East Asian philosophy of like Neo-Confucianism, in that the matter somehow, life goes upwards, matter goes downwards, and the matter kind of constricts you. That's kind of a bad way to say it, but it's the main thing into finding success or joy. Kind of is one of the words he uses, is to break that matter and do that. We have life and we have matter, and in Matter, Memory, Mind, Energy, and Creative Evolution, and all these books, that's gone very well in depth. The universe is basically a clash of these two things, life and matter. It's a clash of them. And the life in its creative evolution, its creativity, is in movement. It's called the philosophy of movement because of how that's creatively acting. And that's where we get issues of free will, which Bergson discusses. Life is a great force, and it's what is called a élan vital. I'm not good at speaking French, but it's called élan vital, which is vital impulse or vital impetus. And that is given from the world beginning. It's life struggles to break away from matter. It tries to break it, and it's using it in its own certain way within creative evolution and creative activity. And creative evolution. That's a big term in Bergsonian philosophy. Bergsonism is the basic idea of creative evolution. It's the basic idea of this dualism that coincides in this one system of life, not of life together, not life by itself. But life coincides with matter, and it's this struggle for one, and creative evolution opposes Darwinian mechanic evolution, also finalistic evolution. Darwinian evolution, that's the common idea of how man evolves, how he changes. It's mechanistic. What is meant by mechanistic? It's mechanical. It is trying to discuss what mechanical means. Mechanical in that the terapsid, as I believe is kind of thing that we get. We got birds or reptiles and mammals from it, the therapsid, the reptile-like furry thing that we got that evolved into a strain of mammals and reptiles. It's mechanistic in that it's mechanistic in that it's not creative. It has a certain way that it's going to do its thing. Things are going to change into different things. It's mechanistic in that there's a certain way it's going to always happen each time. The word automaton is also used, like a automaton in Skyrim. If you play Skyrim, those dwarven centurions and the ballistas, if you got the Dragonborn expansion pack, and the spiders and all this stuff, those are automatons. Automaton in that it has a certain mechanical way of doing things. Each time something happens, it's going to happen in the same way. It's mechanical. So Bergson's creative evolution opposes that. It also opposes finalistic evolution in that finalistic evolution is where there is a certain final destination that is going to be achieved by this. There's things going to evolve toward a certain destination that it's going to aim to achieve. There's a certain telos. Bergson doesn't say that there's no telos or purpose or end, but to this evolution, but not in the finalistic sense. It's creative. This evolution is creative in its telos or purpose, that it's part of the origin of the evolution. If a certain thing is going to be evolving, the place or the telos, the place it's going to go, its purpose or end, is a part of the reason it starts evolving. Evolution is change. It's a philosophy of change. The way something starts changing, if there is a telos, it's a part of the reason or the way in which it starts evolving. It's a part of it's a part of the origin, and it's creative in that it's not predetermined. It's creative in that it could go any which way. It's creative. It's creative activity. And he has ideas about intuition, which is as disinterested instinct. He talks about the conscious and the unconscious, which I shall be discussing. Intuition is the capability of reflecting upon its object, and from memory, he does talk about time and duration, where he talks about memory. Memory is past, and anticipation is future. And Husserl's phenomenology of the consciousness of internal time can be read in correlation with this too, to kind of think about how those things relate. Finally, we have this part of Bergson's work of psychology, in that he talks about what goes on inside here. Consciousness presupposes, or the brain is the sufficient condition for there being consciousness. For a brain, it is necessary that it is the necessary condition for consciousness. If we have a brain, it is necessary that we are conscious, but consciousness is not necessary for a brain. If we have a consciousness, it's not for sure that we have a brain. So he does talk about the little things that go on inside here. It's not behavioral psychology. Anyway, I'm gonna be doing lots of videos on this stuff. So my Twitter's down there. If you have any questions, or if something you want me to discuss, whichever.